Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of A Cup of Laurinade. How are you all doing today? I hope you're all doing very well. I have a lovely cup of Yorkshire tea with me. As usual, this time not decaf because I'm a wee bit tired today. But we are moving forward. Today's episode, as I'm sure you've seen by the title, is the journey to self-care. So today we're going to be talking about self-care. And as always, I'm very excited to talk to you all about this topic today. I think it's something that everybody needs to kind of get a grasp on because we are all very, very busy in our daily life. And I feel like we may neglect ourselves and realize that we also need caring about. And yeah, so that's why I wanted to make this episode today. And as always, before we get into the main segment of the podcast, we are going to do Ick of the Week. And my throat is a little bit funny, so if my voice goes throughout this episode, I'm really sorry. But the season is changing, and apparently that means that, you get a cold, and so my throat is acting up a little bit. But my ick of the week is something that happens basically a lot because it's to do with the washing up, doing the dishes. And, you do your dishes like every day. And mine is my washing up gloves being wet and that dripping on the floor / dripping on my feet. Because, this is probably my own fault, but I do keep my gloves. I have a little clip hanger thingy and they hang on the cupboard under the sink. And so obviously when I'm done washing up, I'll hang them on and it will just drip water onto my feet and onto the floor. But it's been really annoying me this week and then I have to wipe it up with a towel. So is it weird if you wipe your washing up gloves with a towel? Is that weird to dry them after using? I don't know. Guys, let me know in the comments. I feel like it's a bit strange if I dry them, so I just hang them wet. Maybe if I hang them in a different spot, it would be a bit better. Let me know what you think. But yeah, that's really irked me this week. Every time I've washed the dishes, there's just been dripping on my feet. So yeah, it's a self-inflicted ick, so I shouldn't feel sorry. I don't feel sorry for myself, actually. Okay, and the ick in sent by my lovely friend Sophia is her ick is someone coughing out in open without covering their mouths. Oof, this is literally disgusting. But yeah, I have witnessed this one too many times, or sneezing without covering their mouths. I get that maybe you don't want to cough or sneeze in your own hand, but isn't that better than just spreading it out to the world? And I also wanted to say this one because I think I'm getting sick, so I thought it would be a good one to do this week. But yeah, it's so annoying. So many people will just be like, achoo. Granted, they may be coughing not in your face, but what if there's someone behind you? This did happen recently on the bus as well. There was just this woman who was just coughing continuously. Fair enough, it could have been an allergy, but still, it's just gross to cough and sneeze without covering your mouth. It doesn't take a lot of effort to do this, but it saves on a lot of people getting sick if you're sick. And also, it's just disgusting. If you're at home, then fair, but not out in public. I find it really disgusting. What do you think? Am I overreacting a little bit? I think it's gross. So that's it for this week's Ick of the Week. If you have any icks, do be sure to send them to me or just comment down below in the comments. Okay, so yes, today's topic is self-care. And okay, self-care is more than just bubble baths and spa days. Okay, self-care activities are ones that nurture your physical, emotional, and mental health. And it's all about prioritizing your own well-being. Okay, and I think it's important to remember to think about yourself, especially if you're quite an empathetic and selfless person and you're constantly doing things to help others, to please others. it can be very difficult and you may forget about yourself. And I've been there way too many times. I'm a bit of a people pleaser at times, and I've noticed that it does get in the way of my own happiness at times. I've definitely stopped being a people pleaser. It's definitely improved in the past couple of years, but if you're a people pleaser, just listen to this. People may use you for your kindness and you will just exhaust yourself. So just don't bother. Please remember to prioritize yourself. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, more tea. This is my self-care for my throat because ow. So, how can we achieve a self-care mindset? So, shifting to a self-care mindset means going from reacting to life's demands to proactively taking care of yourself. So, I'm going to talk about how we can recognize signs of burnout, which can be a bit of a wake-up call actually, and how mindfulness and self-awareness play a crucial role in adopting a self-care mindset. So, as someone who's experienced burnout way too many times, publicly and privately, burnout can look like being snappy, exhausted, unable to cope with daily life, feeling useless, letting every little thing get to you, or just every little thing gets to you. So it can almost be difficult to recognize it, because I know for me, like, I started to just kind of normalize it and be like, okay, you're just a little bit stressed, it's gonna go, but sometimes it doesn't go, and that's when it's burnout. So I think if you're having like prolonged feelings of this, then you could be suffering from burnout. It's not normal to feel this way about daily life and daily tasks. So please do try to recognize if you are burning yourself out. But yes, so being snappy, exhausted, and just feeling a little bit useless. And I know obviously everybody has bad days, but it's definitely more than just a bad day. So hopefully you'll be able to recognize burnout if it is happening to you. And I know there's a very achievement goal based mindset to want to kind of push through the burnout, because I've been there. And I know I have a lot of friends who work really, really hard, and I do worry about them burning themselves out, because, you know, we're young and we really want to achieve everything we can possible. But at the end of the day, you may not be able to achieve those things in the time frame that you want because you are burnt out. And so, you know, taking a step back to look at your attitude, your behavior, your productivity, because, you know, like I said, it's important for us to be productive, but your burnout and your lack of rest and lack of self-care could be affecting your productivity at the end of the day. So at this point, if you think burnout is affecting you, then it's definitely a good time to turn to self-care. And obviously, if it's a very important work deadline that is fueling your burnout, then I think once you've kind of got it finished, then okay, it's time to step back and give yourself a bit of a break. I know that if the deadline is, you know, impending, then it can be a bit hard to want to take some time off, or to be even physically able to take a little bit of time off. But I can guarantee that extra hour or two that you give yourself to practice self-care, your productivity will be so much better than you can possibly imagine than trying to push through when you're burnt out. So next, let's take a look at some types of self-care. So it's important to note that self-care is different for every individual. And, you know, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of category. There's a lot of different types of self-care, from physical to emotional to social self-care. So let's take a look at these different categories and some examples of effective self-care routines. Okay, so in terms of physical self-care, I have spoken about this on a previous episode, but a great way to practice physical self-care would be to do skincare. And I did mention that previously, when I was extremely, extremely busy, I would not take time to practice self-care in the form of skincare. And now doing skincare is the favorite part of my day. It is my favorite part of my day, and morning and evening skincare, it's definitely time that I take to just relax, take time to think about myself, really look at myself in the mirror and appreciate everything that I have in my life. And you guys know that I've been struggling with acne for forever. And whilst I used to try and distract myself by maybe watching something whilst getting ready to not have to look at my acne, nowadays I'm taking everything in. And I'm looking at myself and learning to love myself at the same time, which I think is also a huge form of self-care, as well as just the physical aspect of doing skincare. Another form of physical self-care would be exercise. I know not everybody has time or funds to join the gym, but there are thousands of free workout routines on the internet. I will link some of my favorite workout YouTubers, I don't know what to call them, but they have so many videos of really easy at-home workouts that you can do, whether or not they're standing or non-jumping ones if you live in an apartment. But you don't even necessarily need to buy a yoga mat. There are a lot of ones that you can do on your bed, a lot of stretching exercises, a lot of relaxing workouts, also yoga, meditation, all of that. You can find it on YouTube. There are so many videos for free out there on the internet. And I know exercise can be a dreaded thing for many people, as it was for myself. But once you start working out, you begin to feel better. And I've been going to the gym for the past couple of months, and it has really, really helped with my productivity levels, as well as my energy levels, as well as my ability to sleep well. Despite me staying up quite late, I'm still always able to sleep well and through to the morning, which I never, ever, ever used to be able to do. So exercise has been a massive stress reliever for me. So if you are how I was and you dread going to the gym, do try doing a little at-home workout. And like I said, I will link some and include ones that are good for if you don't have a yoga mat and if you live in an apartment. So there is one that will be suitable for everybody, and you don't have to be super, super fit to try these out. There are also a lot of beginner exercise routines on YouTube as well. Another form of physical self-care could be to get rid of some clothes, okay? Not just get rid of anything, but I've noticed as I am in my mid-20s, approaching my late 20s, that our bodies change. Our bodies change over time, and that's completely fine. That's completely normal. Obviously, to a degree of healthiness, you do still want to be healthy in your body. But I think it's also important to remember that our bodies do change as we get older, whether or not that looks like weight gain, hips widening, other parts of our bodies getting bigger. That is completely, completely normal. And I know that I've hung on to a lot of clothes from my early 20s in hopes that they will once again fit me. And they do not. And do you know what? That is fine. I know it can be quite hard to throw out these clothes. I've done it in the past, okay? I used to be a UK size 8 when I was at uni, and I did bring some of those clothes to Korea with me when I moved at age 20. I don't know how old was I when I moved here? 22. And I could tell you now they did not fit me still, but I kept them for ages thinking, yeah, I'm going to lose weight. I live in Korea. The food is healthier. I didn't lose the weight. And I kept hanging on to those clothes and being so sad when they would not fit me. I said enough is enough, and I donated those clothes. And it was the best thing I ever did because, for one, they were taking up unnecessary space. 2, they were affecting my mental health. Every time I saw them, I'd be like, why can I not fit into these clothes? So just revamping your wardrobe and just saying, okay, I've not worn these in 3 years, and that's fine. Your clothes are supposed to fit you, not the other way around. You are not supposed to fit your clothes. They are supposed to fit you. So please do not feel awful about yourself or your body just because these clothes that you wore when you're in a different stage of life do not fit you anymore. That is okay. Another one for physical self-care would be eating a balanced meal. I know we do live in a very chaotic time at the moment, and cooking is something that definitely overwhelms me also. I do adore cooking. I love cooking so much, but it can be extremely daunting, and you cook for like an hour and then you eat your meal in 10 minutes and it's just like, I spent so much time, but at the end of the day you are nourishing your body with so much better stuff than delivery food or whatever. And of course, ordering delivery food is nothing to be ashamed of. Everybody has a day when they really just don't want to do anything, and that's also fine. And ordering food can also be a form of self-care. It just has to have a limit. Not only just for your body, for your bank account, and also just kind of this does also feed into another form of self-care, but cooking doesn't give you the instant gratification that ordering food does. So I think it's also good for kind of forming a dopamine detox in the fact that you have to really work for your food when you cook. And so I do recommend attempting to cook a few times a week if you can. Okay, turning to emotional types of self-care. So, emotional self-care is all about practicing mindfulness. So, developing self-awareness by being mindful of your thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations. This awareness can help you recognize when you need self-care and how to prevent burnout. So, for me, I think if you've seen some of my vlogs, you may know that I like to journal a lot. And every time I journal, I like to list 3 non-monetary things that I'm grateful for. And I give this tip to all of my friends because I think when I started this, it really made me not see life in such a materialistic way. I don't think that I'm a particularly materialistic person, but when you try to think of things that you're grateful for, I think you will realize how wired our brains are to be only grateful for achievements and material things at the time. And so usually the things that I'm grateful for are like the sunshine. Obviously if it's raining, then it's a bit difficult, but sunshine. Cup of tea, just being able to make a cup of tea and have the time to make a cup of tea and enjoy it is something I am incredibly grateful for, because that is something I did not have previously. And the fact that I make time in my day to sit down and have a cup of tea and just chill for 15 minutes, okay? 15 minutes is not going to impact your work productivity or your deadlines in that much. Just take some time for yourself. And another thing would be being grateful to be able to go outside and have a walk, okay? Not everybody in the world is in a safe enough place or in a good enough mindset to be able to go outside and take a walk. Like, it's something really that you could take for granted, because there have been times where my mental health has been so bad that I've not wanted to go outside or felt that I could physically bring myself to go outside for a walk. So when I am able to muster up the courage to go and take myself to the park for an afternoon or something like that, it's something I'm so grateful for in terms of my own personal growth. So I do think this is a very good idea. If whether or not you want to journal, whether or not you do journal, I think that this is something really good to just even think about in your head every morning. Whether or not you physically write it down is up to you, but I would really recommend journaling as a great emotional output. And if I journal, I just start it like that, and then think about one goal for the day and one thing to let go of. So one goal can be anything that you want to achieve by the end of the day. It can be doing your laundry. It can be washing your dishes. It doesn't have to be a huge, huge goal. And I think that if you practice these kind of small achievements more, then you're going to feel so much better. Not everything has to be you winning a flipping Nobel Prize at the end of the day. Like, just doing anything that you have on your to-do list or on your goals list is an achievement in itself. And I am so proud of everybody listening who wakes up every day and, achieves these things, because it can be difficult. It can really be difficult because a lot of even small tasks may be extremely overwhelming for people. I know for me, like, the thought of putting away laundry after washing it is a huge task for me, and putting it in my journal definitely does help me with that. And then one thing to let go of could be something that's really bugging you. And honestly, my big tip is, if this thing is not going to matter to you in a few days, do not let it take up more than a few seconds of your time. So, if you've read a horrible comment online, or if somebody looked at you in a certain way, or a friend of yours is, I don't know, being shady, then if it's not going to matter to you next week or in a few days, don't let it occupy more than a few seconds of your mind. As well as journaling, in terms of mindfulness, I did recently purchase some mindfulness cards. I bought the stress relief cards, the mindfulness and the affirmation cards from this company, Mall Paper. I guess they're like a Swedish company. And Sophia did tell me that it means goal or target in Swedish, and it makes a lot of sense because, like I said, I have the mindfulness, the affirmations, and the stress relief deck. But for example, these are kind of like meditation cards, and they are so good. Like, I love having these in my bag. You can just like carry them around. Sorry, those listening on Spotify, you can't see them, but I do post them quite a lot on my stories, so you may have seen. But for example, okay, the one that I just pulled out is, if you feel your body tensing during the day, give yourself a moment to relax. Put your tasks aside and sit or lie down in a comfortable spot. Breathe deeply, feeling your shoulders relax and your jaw unclench and your tension release. Even just reading that right now, I felt my stomach just drop a little bit and my shoulders kind of drop. But these are so good. There's like 52 cards in each pack. So basically, by the time you're done, you will be back to the start and probably need that same card again. But they are really, really good. Yeah, I will leave the link for Amazon if anybody's interested. Not sponsored, by the way. Would love it if you guys will sponsor me, obviously. But yeah, so these cards have been super, super handy for me when I just need a second. And, oh, they were designed in England. Anyway, rather than it being like on my phone, I prefer that it's like a physical thing that I can hold, if that makes sense. And it also means less time on my phone. But yeah, I have been posting them quite a lot on my story. So, if you don't want to buy them because they are a wee bit expensive, then I do post them quite a lot on my story. So do look out for that on my Instagram stories. Okay, and lastly, looking at social self-care. For social self-care, the big, huge one is, of course, social media, which, is practically running everybody's lives at the moment. I literally work on social media, so I'm one of the big factors in this. But as I mentioned, dopamine detox, okay, how to get off our phones. I did talk about this in a vlog not long ago, but dopamine detox, it can be hard, okay? It doesn't have to be about everything in your life, but checking your screen time might give you an indicator of how much time you spend on social media. My screen time in terms of social media is not crazy, actually. It's probably like an hour for Instagram a day, probably less than an hour actually. I'm going to check right now. I say that and it's probably like 5 hours. Let's check our screen time. How do we do that? Time spent. Okay, today I've spent, yesterday, Sunday, I spent an hour on Instagram. Today I've spent 30 minutes and it's already nearly 4 p.m. My most time spent on Instagram this week was 3 hours on Thursday, but my daily average is an hour and 45 minutes, which I don't think is that bad. I've heard some crazy numbers, but when I say screen time, obviously my screen time is crazy because I'm editing a lot. I also play video games, so my screen time is probably ridiculous if we're talking also about video gaming. So yeah, limiting screen time can definitely help with improving on dopamine detox, because obviously we just get instant gratification the second we scroll on these TikTok or YouTube shorts or Instagram reels, and because you're getting entertained in seconds, and it can be so hard to wean yourself away from that, which is why things like reading, cooking, going for a walk, it's not an instant gratification type of exercise. But yeah, it can be so hard to try and limit your screen time. But I think also not waking up and immediately checking your phone in the morning is a good thing. And also trying to keep your phone outside of the bedroom or just any electronics. Like, this is why I'm very grateful to have a separate space for work at home, because luckily we are able to afford a house that has different rooms. That's honestly not the case for a lot of people, especially those living in big cities. So I am very grateful that I have a separate working space, because otherwise that would probably be catastrophic for my sleep. But keeping your phone in a different room whilst you're trying to be productive or whilst trying to sleep is a huge thing. Like, if I'm trying to edit, I will always leave my phone in the bedroom because I don't want it here, because it really, really does affect my productivity. Second I get a message, I'm just like checking my phone, and then I'll accidentally start scrolling, and it's just like a disaster and a snowball effect. I'm sure everybody knows that's just how it is. But yeah. Okay, another form of social self-care can be to set boundaries. Okay, and setting boundaries can be a very strange thing to begin with, especially as a people pleaser. I remember when I first started setting boundaries with friends and family, it was very difficult because I was like, oh my goodness, nobody is gonna, they're gonna hate me because I'm trying to take time for myself. They're gonna think I'm selfish because I don't want to help them with this thing. But honestly, setting boundaries is the best thing you can do for yourself. Oh my goodness. When I finally turned around and was like, okay, no, I'm not gonna do that thing because it causes me immense stress, you'll be so proud of yourself, like so proud of yourself. And if there is somebody that, is your friend but is extremely draining, and every time you spend time with them you feel exhausted, honestly, do it for yourself and really try to limit time with that friend. I know it's really difficult and you may feel terrible, but trust me, you will be so much happier if you do that. And the friend who's causing you emotional exhaustion, it's not their fault. You just probably don't match well as a friend, and that's also okay. And you can try to explain to them. I have tried to explain this to people in the past, like if they are, a little bit much for me at the moment, or I really need time for myself. And most of the time they understand. And I think it's also important to just be honest with people and not beat around the bush at times, because it could also be beneficial for that person. I know you can feel a bit mean, like a bit of a meanie. I do like to be honest in these things, because I think at the end of the day, yeah, like I said, there's no point in being around the bush. And it's also better for yourself to really set boundaries with that and only spend time with people who you feel energized from and not drained from, because then you're just going to dread hanging out with this person, and you could also end up becoming burnt out from that and become snappy with this person. And that's something that you really don't want to do, because that person is not necessarily purposely draining you and you don't want to end up snapping at them. So that's another huge thing. Okay, and the last type of self-care I want to talk about is learning to manage stress. Stress is a huge contribution to burnout. I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that, but stress is something I struggle with immensely. My friends listening will know that I am and have always been a bit of a stress head. Ever since I was young, I had to go on anti-anxiety meds when I was super young, and I get very, very overwhelmed and very, very stressed, even from the tiniest things. So how I learned to manage stress is I make a list. I make 3 lists, actually, and I'm so glad that I have this tip for you guys. Okay, so how I manage stress now is I write a list of everything that's causing me stress. It can be the tiniest thing ever to the biggest thing causing me stress, not in any particular order. I then make a second kind of table of 3 categories. One being what I have 0 control over, literally no control, i.e. something environmental, political, social, that kind of thing that may be causing you stress, something to do with the way somebody else feels about you. You have 0 control over this thing, okay? And it's oftentimes these things that cause me the biggest stress, because I know that I can't do anything about it, and I feel like that's why I'm more stressed about those things. And then the second category is something that you have kind of some control over, not 100% control, but some control over. It can be something that you're waiting for somebody else to do. I know that can be huge stress, like waiting for someone to finish something or waiting for someone to get back to you about something can be massive stress inducer. But putting that in the category is like, okay, I don't have 100% control over this. I'm waiting for somebody to get back to me about this. There's nothing I can really do. Do not let it consume you like that. And then lastly, the category is something I have 100% control over. This can be, oh, I'm stressed because my clothes aren't organized. Oh, I'm stressed because I haven't done the dishes, but I need to do the dishes. Or I'm stressed because I need to edit this video. And so from the list that you have 100% control over, what you can do is set a plan of action, okay, and how you're going to combat these things that you have 100% control over. You're going to set like a to-do list style of thing, or kind of a method of kind of problem solving if it's like a bigger task. And then from there you can just work through the list and you will slowly feel the stress hopefully decrease. I know that putting things in the 0% control really, really helps me, because like I said, I do get very, very stressed about things, environmental things and that kind of stuff, because I'm a huge empath and everything gets to me basically. So doing this and learning to manage stress this way really, really is a massive help. So I do recommend that for everybody listening, if you're feeling really overwhelmed, to do this sort of list. Okay, so they are all of my tips on self-care. If you have any others, please do not hesitate to leave them down in the comments. I would love to hear on some of your self-care practices. And let's just lastly look at some benefits of self-care. I don't think you need me to tell you anymore, but it can help reduce stress, improve mental health, enhance physical health. Like I said, if you're exercising, it's really going to improve not only your mental, but also your physical health. Increase productivity. Like I said, if you do take a step back and take a break, you will be so impressed at how much clearer you can focus and think on things. And yes, it does enhance focus and concentration. It can also help better relationships. So like I said, setting boundaries and really not being a people pleaser, not forcing yourself to hang out with people who are draining. It can really help you focus on relationships that maybe you feel more comfortable with, and not be burnt out to hang out with friends that you actually want to spend time with because you used all your energy for somebody else who was draining your energy. It can help boost self-esteem. So, like I said earlier, I do also have the affirmations deck from the same company, and it really does help you kind of feel that you are worthy of everything you want to achieve in life, and just overall bettering your mental health will help you feel like you do deserve things, because you do flippin' deserve everything, I promise. Improve sleep. Like I said, I have seen my sleep improve so much since working out and also practicing all of these things. Increase energy levels. I also mentioned that from working out as well. Enhance creativity. Now, when I was burnt out from editing and trying to make so much content because I thought that I had to produce a reel every day, I did notice that my creativity was at an all-time low, and also my focus, obviously. But when I did take a little break, I was able to think of so many more amazing ideas for my content. Better emotional regulation. Yes, it can help reduce likelihood of emotional outbursts and mood swings. That is definite. Obviously, reducing burnout, increasing resilience. It's self-care helps enhance resilience, in that you're more likely to bounce back more easily because not everything is getting to you as much. Okay, better decision making. Definitely when you have a clearer mind, you're definitely better at making decisions. And I think journaling and self-reflection can also really, really help with that. And overall improved quality of life. So ultimately, self-care enhances your overall quality of life by promoting balance and well-being in areas. So definitely having a work-life balance, a social life balance. All of these things are going to help you overall achieve an improved quality of life. Wow, I have spoken so much about this, but I'm really, really glad that I got to do this episode, because I do think that self-care and well-being is something that we may neglect in our very, very busy lives. But at the end of the day, prioritizing yourself over everything is going to help you achieve everything that you've wanted to achieve in life. Okay, so that is it for the main segment of the podcast. I really enjoyed talking to you about this today, and do definitely let me know how you practice self-care in the comments, and if this episode helped you, I would love to know if any of the tips I gave you today you're going to try out. If you have any tips for me, of course, I am always open to suggestions like that. Let's lastly end this episode on This Week in Korea to find out what's going on in Korea. And the article that really spoke to me the most was caffeinated drinks spark buzz on teens overuse. I don't think this is just an issue in Korea, because I know in the UK all these kids are obsessed with Prime, which is literally like a Red Bull kind of style drink, like an energy drink. And I know when I was younger, including myself, I would drink Lucozade and Lucozade Sport, which was so bad for me. So much sugar and caffeine, but there are concerns growing over excessive consumption of caffeine amongst adolescents, according to a report of a teen health study report. And so the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency actually did a youth health behavior survey, where they conducted the survey on 60,000 middle school and high school students in over 800 schools in Korea. And 22.3% of students said yes when asked if they drink high caffeine beverages more than 3 times a week. And over 26% said that they consume these drinks once or twice a week. Oh my goodness. Okay, this is actually crazy. That's almost a quarter of youths in high school and middle school are drinking high caffeinated drinks. So like Red Bull, for example, or maybe the Korean version of Red Bull, Hot Six. This could also be coffee, for example. I'm not sure if these kids are drinking coffee, but high caffeine beverages usually contain over 50 milligrams of caffeine per 100 mils. caffeine, the maximum daily intake of caffeine for a 50 kg adolescent is 125 milligrams. So if we're talking about a child having a 500 milligram cup of whatever this drink is, they're going to be having almost more than half of their maximum caffeine intake, which is slightly concerning. But obviously, I mean, it's not that terrible. I just don't like the idea of kids getting, addicted to caffeine. But the main thing is the negative side effects of caffeine on teens' growing bodies. It can produce nausea, sleep impairment, nervousness, and even slowing maturing processes of their brains and their abilities to concentrate. And I do know that kids, I've spoken about it before, but the education system, these kids must be so exhausted. And I'm not surprised that they are turning to caffeine because they see that adults turn to caffeine and love coffee, or as like me, love tea. But at the moment, there is no legal basis for regulating sale of coffee to adolescents. I did think that in the UK there was a law on it. I'm not 100% sure. So in the UK, there is actually a ban on selling energy drinks to under 16s for this exact reason. So I do wonder if Korea would implement this. Probably not, considering that it's been going on. So the Ministry of Food and Drug Safety did actually ban selling high caffeine foods like coffee in schools in 2014. But obviously this can't prevent kids from going to the convenience store to buy these things or going to a coffee shop. But yeah, so the UK does have a law on selling high caffeinated beverages to kids under 16, which I think is a really good thing. What do you guys think about that? Do you think kids should be allowed to drink energy drinks and coffee, for example? Let me know what you think in the comments. And that is it for today's episode of A Cup of Laurinade. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you enjoyed today's episode. And as always, I hope you're all happy, healthy, and safe wherever you are, whether it's morning, evening, or night. And yeah, I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you in a new episode next week. Bye bye.